$5,000 sounds reassuring until you put it next to real emergencies. Imagine you have 10 grand in a savings account. By Tuesday, it is worth 6, and by Friday, you are in debt. Here's exactly how that happens. For 2 decades, the mainstream personal finance industry has preached the gospel of the arbitrary, flat-rate emergency fund. We have all heard the standard advice repeated across every blog and podcast. $1,000 is your starter safety net, and $5,000 is the gold standard for a single adult or young family. We are trained to treat that 5 grand like a magical shield that will protect us from the chaos of life. Gurus frame it as the ultimate sleep well at night metric. But I ran the numbers for 2026, and I am here to tell you that this shield is broken. It is a mathematical illusion that leaves millions of people completely exposed. Relying on a $5,000 safety net today is like wearing a raincoat to a hurricane. The rain is still going to soak you, and the wind is going to blow you away. We need to stop trusting outdated advice. The average person believes 5 grand is enough because of something called nominal anchoring bias. Back in 2010, that was actually a mathematically sound number. It covered 3 months of rent in a decent mid-tier American city, leaving enough left over to keep the lights on and the fridge full. Furthermore, because saving that much money requires significant behavioral sacrifice and time to accumulate, we attach a massive psychological weight to it. We confuse the brutal effort it took to save the money with the actual utility the money provides. In the public consciousness, hitting that $5,000 balance feels like arriving at a finish line. Before we tear down this illusion and rebuild it with actual math, taking a second to hit subscribe is the best return on investment for your time today. I dig into these financial traps so you do not have to fall into them. The truth is, treating $5,000 as an end goal is a massive trap. It completely ignores the structural drag of post-2020 inflation, higher interest rates, and the modern premium on services. Let us look at what happens when real-world scenarios hit that specific number today. Let us start with scenario A, the everyday commuter event. Conventional wisdom says your emergency fund is primarily there for when the car breaks down. You picture a flat tire, maybe a busted alternator, or a cracked windshield. These are single, isolated events that might cost a few $100 and ruin your afternoon, but they leave your safety net mostly intact. A $5,000 emergency fund is often compared to a Kevlar vest. It makes you feel bulletproof. But the problem is that this vest only covers your stomach. It will stop one specific, small caliber bullet, like a minor medical bill or a flat tire. Unfortunately, life does not shoot single bullets. Life usually fires a shotgun, and the modern automobile is practically designed to maximize the spread of that blast. People are still budgeting for mechanical tasks from 2015, completely ignoring what is actually under the hood of their car today. Whether you drive a gas-powered commuter or a shiny new electric vehicle, the rules of the game have completely changed, and your wallet is the one taking the hit. Let us look at the brutal math of modern car repairs. Vehicles today are basically rolling supercomputers. We have shifted away from simple mechanical fixes to complex software and microchip-dependent replacements. If you have a transmission failure or a major sensor array replacement after a seemingly minor fender bender, you are not just paying for a wrench and some grease anymore. The average auto shop labor rate in 2026 sits at a punishing $185 an hour. A minor powertrain issue or a high-voltage battery module repair averages $3,800 straight out of pocket. Think about that math for a second. If you swipe your debit card and drain your $5,000 fund to cover that single event, you have exactly $1,200 left to your name. You worked for 2 years to build that safety net, and a single sensor calibration just wiped out almost 80% of it in a Tuesday afternoon. The flat number strategy fundamentally fails because it does not scale with the hyperinflated cost of modern services. If you think draining 80% of your safety net on a car repair is bad, wait until you see what happens next. This is where most people stop their calculations, wipe the sweat from their forehead, and think they survived the crisis. They did not. The invisible trap here is the single play fallacy. We are behaviourally wired to think of emergencies as one-off events. One bad thing happens, you pay the penalty, you recover. But game theory tells us that life is a repeated game with clustered volatility. Bad things happen in groups. A job loss often correlates with losing health insurance, which cascades into an inability to pay for sudden car repairs. By spending $3,800 on your car, you are now entirely exposed to any secondary risk. You are operating with effectively zero liquid safety net. If your dog swallows a sock the next day, you are immediately forced into high-interest debt. This false sense of security is the exact mechanism that pushes responsible savers straight into a financial death spiral. To optimize your wealth and fix this vulnerability, we have to stop thinking in flat numbers entirely. The optimizer protocol demands we build a system that can withstand compound strikes. Instead of saying you need $5,000, you need to calculate your specific out-of-pocket maximums. Look at your auto insurance policy right now and find your deductible. If it is $2,000, that is your absolute bare minimum floor for this specific category. But a deductible does not cover the wear and tear failure we just talked about, like a blown transmission. So the solution is not just saving for the insurance deductible, but recognizing the base replacement cost of your primary transportation. You must mentally partition your savings so that a transportation crisis does not wipe out your housing security. This means abandoning the idea of one giant pool of money and replacing it with mathematical firewalls. Your car emergency fund is completely separate from your rent emergency fund. This is how wealthy people structure their risk management, and it is exactly how you need to start operating. If you thought the car repair math was rough, wait until you see what happens when the emergency involves a hospital visit. The medical emergency is the ultimate test of a flat-rate savings account. People wrongly assume their health insurance is a perfect firewall. You pay your expensive premiums every single month, so you naturally figure a sudden trip to the emergency room for a sports injury or an appendix issue will just cost a couple of annoying copays. You have $5,000 in the bank, so you feel totally insulated from the medical system. But this is where the evaporating ice block analogy comes into play. Flat financial goals are blocks of ice in a warming room. Inflation and corporate cost shifting are the heat. You think you have a solid block of protection because you measured it years ago. By the time you reach for it in 2026, you find a puddle. A $5,000 balance today does not behave the way it did 10 years ago, especially when you step through sliding hospital doors. Let us look at the raw numbers for a localized medical emergency. Maybe it is appendicitis or a severe knee injury from playing basketball. Emergencies rarely occur in a vacuum, but even if they do, the math is terrifying. In 2026, the average out-of-pocket maximum for an employer-sponsored high-deductible health plan is an astronomical $8,500. Even a moderate emergency room visit, with some basic imaging and a few blood tests, will instantly consume a $3,500 deductible. Boom! If you started the week with $5,000, you are now down to $1,500. That money is gone before you even get the final bill from the out-of-network radiologist. Your magical shield just got shattered by a single afternoon in a hospital bed. And remember, this is just the immediate medical cost. It does not account for the prescriptions, the follow-up visits, or the physical therapy required to actually get you back on your feet. This brings us to the cascading emergency, and it is the hidden penalty of an underfunded account. Medical emergencies correlate tightly with lost income. If you are forced to miss 2 weeks of work unpaid while recovering from that hospital visit, you enter negative cash flow. Your remaining $1,500 evaporates on rent and basic groceries. Suddenly, you have a gap, and you have to bridge it. This is the exact moment the scarcity mindset debt spiral is triggered. When a $7,000 total emergency hits a $5,000 fund, the remaining balance goes straight onto a credit card. Right now, the average annual percentage rate on a credit card is 24.5%. Your monthly cash flow is immediately attacked by high-interest debt payments, which ruthlessly reduces your ability to rebuild the savings you just lost. This is the exact mathematical threshold where the middle class slides into the working poor, entirely because their safety net was too small to catch the whole fall. So, how do you actually beat the cascade? You use the Cascading Risk Matrix. You must hold liquid cash equal to the sum of your two largest contiguous risks. Take your auto out-of-pocket maximum and add it to your health insurance out-of-pocket maximum. If your car deductible is $2,500 and your health maximum is $6,000, your mathematical baseline floor is $8,500. Add those top two risks together, and that is your new target. To help you actually map this out without pulling your hair out, I built a platform called CashClass. It is the official Tom Talks Money web application linked right at the very top of the description. It bridges the gap between learning the math on this channel and actually doing it in real life. There are absolutely no bank logins required. It is completely privacy first. You just upload your CSV statements and the software helps you model these exact risk matrices. You can start your 14-day free trial on the web today, and it even includes full access to my Budgeting 101 course for free. Stop guessing and let the math do the heavy lifting. Moving on to another massive blind spot. Most people only associate emergencies with things breaking down or unexpected physical injuries. But what about housing instability? This is where conventional wisdom usually tells you to just tighten your belt and budget better. But I'm going to show you why you might actually go broke just trying to keep a roof over your head. People wrongly assume that as long as they pay their rent on time every single month, their housing is permanently secure. But landlords sell properties. Rents get hiked beyond your strict debt-to-income capacity. A forced move is one of the most common yet least planned for financial emergencies in the modern economy. We treat housing like a fixed variable when it is actually highly volatile. And I promise you, a $5,000 safety net will not even get you through the front door of a new place today. The structural cost of moving has quietly exploded while everyone was busy worrying about the price of groceries. Let us do the unrecoverable cash outlay math for a forced local move. If you are forced out of your apartment, you cannot just sleep on the street. In a major metro area in 2026, the median rent sits right around $2,300. When you are forced to move, you have to hand over the first month of rent up front, which is $2,300, plus a security deposit of another $2,300. Then you have to factor in modest local movers, or at least a truck rental, which averages around $1,100. That is a total unrecoverable cash outlay of $5,700. Your proud $5,000 emergency fund leaves you $700 short just to secure basic shelter. You are mathematically underwater before you even start packing your boxes. And that is assuming you have perfect credit, and they do not ask for the last month of rent up front as well. And here is the psychological twist that makes this so damaging. That $5,700 completely ignores the overlap costs. It does not account for the new utility deposits you have to put down, or the overlap rent when you hold the keys to two different places for a weekend to actually move your stuff. Because it took so much effort to save those $5,000 in the first place, accepting that it is not enough to even move apartments is incredibly painful. This is the sunk cost of accumulation. We suffer from intense cognitive dissonance, refusing to update our targets because doing so admits that our past sacrifices were mathematically insufficient. We also suffer from the money illusion. We think in the nominal face value of the money rather than its real purchasing power. $5,000 looks the exact same on a digital screen today as it did back in 2015, perfectly blinding the saver to the fact that its utility has been slashed by roughly 35% over the last decade. To outsmart the money illusion, we have to respect the rule of 72 and inverse purchasing power. At a normalized 3.5% post-2020 inflation average, the purchasing power of your money halves roughly every 20 years. That means your emergency fund target must be adjusted upward annually, exactly like your rent is. You cannot just pick a flat number and sit on it for 5 years. Review your lease terms, look at current market rates in your zip code, and manually adjust your liquidity target every single January. Make it an annual ritual to stress test your cash reserves against the current rental market, not the market from 3 years ago. If rent goes up 10%, your housing emergency allocation needs to go up 10%. The optimizer dynamically adjusts to the macroeconomic reality, rather than stubbornly clinging to a number they heard on a radio show a decade ago. Update your targets, or inflation will quietly steal your safety net. Now we arrive at the absolute worst-case scenario, the catastrophic tail risk event. If you think inflation eating your savings is bad, wait until you see the brutal math on a sudden job loss. People severely underestimate how long it takes to actually find a new job. We trick ourselves into thinking that if we get laid off during a corporate restructuring, we will just take a few weeks to polish the resume, ace an interview, and be back on payroll by the end of the month. That unchecked optimism is incredibly dangerous. An emergency fund that only covers a small portion of a long-term crisis is like building a bridge 60% of the way across a fast-moving river. You put in a massive amount of hard work, you followed the blueprints, but you still drown in the end. A $5,000 fund for a major income crisis means you end up in the exact same debt spiral as the person who saved absolutely nothing. The math on unemployment is sobering and requires strict honesty. You need to calculate what I call your lean burn rate. This is bare bones survival mode. We are talking housing, essential utilities, base groceries, minimum debt obligations, and health insurance via COBRA or a health exchange. Do not include your streaming subscriptions, dining out, or your monthly investing allocations. In 2026, the median lean burn rate for a single professional to just exist is $3,800 a month. So your $5,000 fund covers exactly 1.3 months of life. However, the average white-collar job search in a normalized labor market takes 4.2 months. You are mathematically guaranteed to run out of money and be forced into massive, high-interest debt accumulation during a standard period of frictional unemployment. The flat-fee emergency fund is a mathematical failure when exposed to the duration of a modern job search. The hidden penalty for underfunding this category is incredibly severe. The true cost of a weak emergency fund is not just the 24% credit card interest you pay when you inevitably run out of cash. It is the compound interest you miss out on. When you run out of money in month 2 of a 4-month job search, you have to halt all your stock market investments to service your new debt. You are sacrificing future wealth just to survive the present. In personal finance, emergencies are not normally distributed on a bell curve. They are fat-tailed. The probability of extreme events, like a job loss followed immediately by a medical issue because of the stress, is mathematically much higher than standard models predict. You lose your job, you lose your corporate health insurance, and suddenly you are paying out of pocket for everything. This is how a single event triggers a catastrophic financial collapse. The ultimate solution to survive this is the liquidity tiering system. Holding $15,000 in a standard checking account loses to inflation. So we optimize. Tier 1 is instant liquidity. Keep exactly 1 month of your lean burn rate in a zero-yield checking account for instant bailouts. Tier 2 is yield-bearing liquidity. Keep 2 to 5 times your burn rate in a high-yield savings account or a treasury bill ladder, earning around 5%. It takes a couple of days to clear, which is perfectly fine for 95% of emergencies. Tier 3 is your Roth IRA principal sandbox for tail risk events. You can withdraw your contributions penalty-free if you face year-long unemployment, serving as a stealth tier of capital while remaining invested in the market. If you want to dive deeper and master systems exactly like this, click the Join button below to become one of the optimizers. Channel members get priority comment replies and custom sketch badges next to their name. Finally, I want to hear your math. Drop a comment below with what you think a realistic emergency fund looks like in your specific city. Let us get some peer review going.